Archangel Michael says, "The night moves like a needle through dark silk, stitching your name into a song the world hasn't heard until this very hour." The alert arrives in a burst of light on your screen, a notification that cleaves the evening in two. You don't follow celebrity gossip, not really, yet there it is, your name in all caps on a cover image already trending across timelines, a thumbnail shimmering with neon and rain, a single title, "You." The caption below sets your pulse skittering, surprise drop. Limited window. Listen before midnight. Your first thought is that it must be a glitch, some random coincidence, a title that just happens to mirror the way your friends call you. But the preview opens and a flood of comments surges up the page, snatches of wow and how and who is the person behind the name. 1,000 hearts rise like sparks. Someone tags your handle. Another posts a split screen of the artwork and an old photo of you at a night market, face half lit by strings of bulbs, rain freckles on your cheek. The date stamp is last year. The location is your city. You stare until your reflection, faint in the glass, seems to lean forward from somewhere deeper, a version of you who knows the rest of this story. Outside, the monsoon air breathes at the window, heavy with jasmine and the mineral whisper of damp roads. Somewhere down the lane, a scooter fizzles past, a dog shakes rain from its fur and snorts. The world carries on as if the universe hasn't just used your name as a flare fired into the sky. You tap play. A warm guitar glows up from the silence first, plucked like lantern light caught between two fingers. Then the drums, muffled as footsteps in a gallery after hours. A voice, unhurried yet edged with urgency, steps into the room of your mind, and the first line lands with impossible precision. "I saw you once in the storm that stitched the city closed." Those words could describe 1,000 people in 1,000 rains, yet you know when the second line arrives that it is not generic. You held your umbrella like a halo tipped to one side, and the streetlight made a comet from the water running off your sleeve. Your hands go colder. You remember that rain. The umbrella was broken, you tilted it just so to keep the rib from poking through. A man had walked past with a guitar case strung across his back like a second spine. You'd glanced up because the case was black, but the sticker near the handle flashed in blue, an unmistakable emblem from a band you loved in college. You'd thought nothing of it. A moment, a glance, a raindrop falling exactly into your ear. The chorus rises like a bridge thrown across a ravine, the melody confident and clean. None of the words say your name outright. None of them could be used as proof in a court. But the images know you intimately, the chipped cup with a gold rim your aunt gave you, the silver-threaded scarf you wear as a charm when life asks for courage, the way you tuck your hair behind your ear when you've made a decision the world hasn't caught up to yet. And there, in the second verse, a station named for a poet, the very metro stop where you keep missing trains because the poems painted on the wall always pull you in for one more line. Archangel Michael says, The holy work of the night is to show you what threads have already been woven into your life without your permission, and to ask what you will do now that you see the tapestry. The internet is a bonfire. Screens are held like offerings to the sky. People begin to speculate about the muse behind the song, the way summer storms collect at the edge of the horizon, quickly, electrically, almost beautifully. Some say it's about a model, pointing to a runway clip where the musician smiled too long at a certain minute mark. Others swear it's about a poet, citing the rhymes that hover near haiku then fall away like a bird deciding at the last second not to land. But then a thread opens like a secret door, a grainy backstage photo where you stand in profile near the exit of a small venue 6 months ago. You were there because a friend was working sound. You'd stopped by to bring samosas and inside jokes. The musician had played a private set for radio folks and left early through the side alley. Someone's phone caught your silhouette as you checked the time. The caption now reads, "Is this the you?" You think of messaging your friend to ask who posted the photo. You think of deleting every public post you've made in the last 5 years. You think of pretending to be asleep in case this is a dream that decides to fold back into its shell like a startled snail. The sound drifts to your balcony and curls around the doormat. You notice you've paused the song at the bridge, where the voice promises to reveal how a stranger becomes a mirror and a mirror becomes a door. Midnight isn't far. The caption under the video said limited window. You'd thought that was a gimmick. Maybe it still is. Maybe scarcity is just another glittering jacket hung on the shoulders of art so people will touch it more. You press play again. The bridge isn't a boast, it's a confession made in a key you once heard in your grandmother's humming when she folded laundry at dusk. The voice speaks of a name written on a napkin in a pocket, of a choice to say nothing because the mystery made the world kinder, of a decision to finally tell the truth because the silence grew into a labyrinth where every turn asked for a toll. The last line before the drop is a pin pulled from a grenade of tenderness. If you're hearing this, the song has found the one it was brave enough to love without a contract. You lean back into the couch as if the room might tilt. Your phone keeps buzzing, friends, colleagues, the old classmate who always appears when anything shines too brightly. A publication you recognize sends a DM, "Can we talk?" We think you're the person behind you. A radio station pings a voice note filled with breathless charm. Your heart taps the glass of your ribs once, twice, forever. None of this was on the list of things to do tonight. The list had groceries, a reminder to wash the curtains, a note to call the bank about a charge that wasn't yours. The night has other plans, the way rivers have other plans when mountains forget they exist. Archangel Michael says, when destiny knocks, it does not always use the front door. Sometimes it pours through the speakers and calls you by the story you thought was too small to be sung. The second chorus grows larger than the first, a city lit up from within. You picture the musician in a sound booth, one hand cupped to their right ear, eyes closed the way some people listen to prayers inside themselves. You imagine the producer leaning back, smiling at the thing they've caught, as if they'd managed to photograph a comet without telling it to hold still. You imagine your own life from the outside, a series of rooms you've left too quickly or cleaned too thoroughly, a series of trains you've boarded at the last second, a series of portraits taken by shadows as you walked past them on your way to buy bread. Your messages split into two currents, one frantic, one tender. "You okay?" writes one friend. "This is surreal," writes another. A third, soft, wise, the kind of friend who remembers your middle school library card number, simply writes, "Breathe." You do. In the inhale there is pepper, tea, the shy perfume of a book spine. In the exhale there is rain and release and the distant call of a fruit seller somewhere under a tarp. The song ends without fireworks. It doesn't slam the door or throw a glass. It just turns off the lamp and sits beside you in the dark as if the roof could be stars and the floor could be a river and someone could pass you a lantern made from your own courage. The comments keep flying. The clock keeps sliding toward 12. Below the video, a line you didn't notice before reveals itself as a hyperlink. Tonight only. Rooftop playback, one city, coordinates unlocked when the counter hits 30 minutes. Bring only what you can carry in your pockets. Leave the rest to the night. Archangel Michael says, the map is already written under your skin. You only have to step where the light grows. For a moment, fear arrives the way moths arrive when light does. What if it's a hoax? What if you go and nothing happens? What if it is you and everything happens and you have to live after the thunderclap? Yet fear is not the only visitor. Curiosity knocks, and courage steps in without knocking at all. You grab a jacket and your keys. You put the phone in your pocket, screen down, as if the world can wait while the city speaks. You lock the door with the quiet dignity of someone who knows doors are meant to be opened as much as closed. The streets are rinsed and shining, reflections traveling like twin ghosts beneath the traffic. At the metro, the tiled poems at your station greet you with their permanent rain. You choose the stairwell instead of the escalator because your body tells you it needs the climb. A woman runs past laughing, her umbrella reversed like a flower that forgot which way to bloom. A boy in a yellow raincoat jumps both feet into a puddle, and the splash writes a small novel on your jeans. You don't mind. The train doors open with a sigh, strangers make a constellation out of their private planets. You stand near the map and trace the route to a stop you almost never use, the one near an old cinema with a rooftop that used to host midnight screenings of films long out of print. As you ride, your phone vibrates again, the coordinates are live. The rooftop you'd guessed. 2 lines, enter through the side stair. If you think this is about fame, turn around now. If you think this is about being seen, keep going, that is a different kind of light. You step off into a softer darkness. The cinema's facade is a wedding of peeling paint and neon that refuses to die. A man at the doorway nods, as if the city sent him. You take the side stair. Each flight condenses your life into breath and step, breath and step. That simple liturgy humans forget is a miracle. A door opens at the top, and the rain smells applause thin now, a mist rather than a downpour. Strings of lights are hung like constellations aching to be named. 20, maybe 30 people cluster in small galaxies, radio folks, photographers, a few dance kids in oversized hoodies, an auntie in a sari so green it could teach the leaves a lesson. Everyone speaks in the hush reserved for chapels, libraries, and rooms where someone is about to sing. A speaker hums. A laptop blinks at the edge of the night. A small sign asks for no flash photos and no live streams. Let the song be air before it becomes data. You feel the eyes of curiosity on your shoulders but none of the teeth of cruelty. A hush falls further, the hush you remember from school assemblies when the principal's footsteps pause just behind the curtain. Then the voice, that voice, fills the rooftop with the intimacy of a candle lit inside a seashell. Thank you for meeting music where it chooses to live, the musician says, unseen, their words piped through. No cameras tonight. Just memory. A ripple of relief moves through the crowd, agreements are made without documents. I wrote this for the person whose name lives under the title, they continue. And I wrote it for everyone who's ever been named without raising a hand. May we all be brave. The song blooms again, larger in the open air, as if freedom is an amplifier. You hear new details, a second guitar tracing an afterglow, a synth that breathes like a lighthouse, a snare wrapped in velvet. The bridge opens into a spoken passage not in the streaming version, words that settle on your shoulders like a shawl. To the one whose umbrella haloed the night, your kindness was a mirror I carried into the studio. Not to trap your reflection. To learn how to see myself with the same gentleness. Something inside you, something that has been waiting for a long time without complaining, sits up straight. You feel it at the base of your throat, where the impulse to sing and the impulse to cry share a doorway. The musician continues gently, no one is owed a story, not even me. But a story can be offered. This one is offered. No contracts. No signatures. Only gratitude for a moment that became a compass. The rooftop is a chorus of soft yes nobody says aloud. You realize a decision has arrived and set its suitcase down at your feet. The world has shoved you toward a spotlight, but the light in this room is different, it pours outward instead of pinning you. You could step forward and say it was me. You could step back and just let the song be a kind of weather that happens to pass through your life. You could ask for privacy. You could ask for a chance to speak. All your options line up like small boats wanting to push out from shore. Archangel Michael says, the right choice is the one that lets your soul breathe without asking your integrity to pay rent. A hand touches your elbow lightly. It's the friend from the sound booth days, eyes bright with "I knew this night had a purpose." "You," they mouth, not a question, just a quiet alignment of stars. You nod once, not for the crowd, not for the internet, but for yourself, the person who stood in a storm with a skewed umbrella and still made it home unsoaked. Your friend squeezes your arm. "If you step up, I'll stand near," they say. "If you stay, I'll stand nearer." You laugh, because the best people speak like that. When the song ends, the rooftop breathes. The voice returns. If the person behind the story is here and wants to meet after, the side door near the strings of blue bulbs will be open, the musician says. If not, I'll keep this a blessing offered to the air. A final chord shivers into nothing. The string lights blink once, as if the rooftop has eyelids. You wait. Not for applause. Not for courage. For that steady feeling to arrive, the one that says your life is large enough to hold the after. When it comes, it is quieter than you imagined, not a trumpet blast, just a click like a seatbelt finding home. You and your friend move toward the blue bulbs. A light mist keeps the night from sticking, you feel clean in it, like fruit just washed. The side door opens to a short corridor smelling faintly of eucalyptus and dust. A staffer gestures. You step into a small room where a kettle steams on a tray and two mismatched chairs wait like companions who are old enough not to rush you. The musician is already there, not in leather and spectacle but in a plain hoodie and socks with little constellations stitched into them, the kind that say I travel and still learn the names of the stars. Their face is thinner than on magazines, real in the way photograph gloss cannot catch. The first words out of your mouth surprise you with their own calm. Thank you for letting the story belong to itself. They smile, relief rippling off them like heat from a Sunday street. Thank you for letting me carry a moment without selling it, they say. There is no fanfare in this room, only two humans and a story that has finally decided it doesn't have to pretend to be anything other than itself. Do you want the world to know it was you? They ask, a careful kindness in each syllable. Or should we keep it between us and whoever needed to hear it to feel a little less lost tonight? You glance at your friend, then at the steam drawing small weather on the inside of the kettle's lid. You think of your grandmother's humming, the chipped cup, the scarf threaded with silver, the metro station that insists on poems. You think of privacy as an orchard you've tended without visitors, and of generosity as a gate you can open from inside. I want the song to keep its magic, you say. If the internet needs a name, it won't find mine from me. The musician nods, grateful in a way that says they know what it costs to give an answer like that when the world is clapping for the wrong reasons. Archangel Michael says, the night honors those who choose the bright seam between silence and speech. You talk for a while, the kind of talk that doesn't try to build anything, just sits in the room like a gentle, tireless lamp. The musician tells you the first line arrived on a train between cities when the sky was the color of ripe plums. You tell them about the day the umbrella broke, how the rain turned the pavement into a mirror you almost fell into. They laugh at the sticker on the guitar case. It was a last-minute gift from a fan in another city, a badge that fell into their life in a way that now makes sense. You sip tea that tastes like an orchard in winter finding its crescent of sun. Before you leave, the musician offers something you don't expect, an envelope with a little weight to it, and a sentence that feels like a prayer that learned to stand up straight. A token, they say, for borrowing a moment from your life. It's not payment, it's a thank you note in the language of the world. You tuck the envelope into your pocket without looking, no counting, no evaluation, just the simple acceptance of a gesture made with both hands. On the rooftop again, the night has widened as if the sky inhaled. People begin to drift in twos and threes down the stairwell, murmuring the weather of their feelings. You lean on the railing. The city below glows like a motherboard, every light a story doing its work. Your friend bumps your shoulder. Hungry? You both laugh, because hunger is the most human punctuation. You buy noodles from a cart that decided to move toward the smell of music and eat them standing under a tree that thinks the string lights are new stars and seems delighted to be so close to the firmament. On the way home, your phone has become a quieter animal. You've turned most notifications off for a while, not out of fear, but to let the pond clear. A message from a relative sits like a kindly bird on a branch, proud of you for handling tonight with grace. Another from a colleague, if you ever want to talk about the weirdness of attention, I've got stories and snacks. You smile. You put the phone away. The metro hums through the tunnel the way a river hums dreamless through stone. At your door, the key slides in like a note tucked into a melody. The room welcomes you back with the faithful anonymity of furniture. You place the envelope on the table beside the chipped cup and the silver scarf. It looks comfortable there, as if objects recognize other objects with good intentions. You take off your jacket and notice it smells like rain and star-mapped socks, a combination you didn't know existed. You sit. You breathe the kind of breath that pages take when the book closes for the night. Archangel Michael says, "The miracle was never that a famous musician wrote a song about you. The miracle is that you met attention and decided not to betray yourself to feed it. The miracle is that you let the song be a bridge instead of a cage. The miracle is that you remembered who you were before the melody borrowed your name, and you liked that person enough to remain them. You open your window and let the late air move through the curtains. Somewhere, a scooter rattles, somewhere, a gate clicks, somewhere, a child bargains with sleep and wins. You think of the rooftop and the cord of lights. You think of the chorus that carried your life without demanding to rename it. You think of the station where poems hold you just long enough to miss trains without missing your life. You think of kindness, yours and theirs, passing between you like a cup that never empties. Before bed, you return to the song one last time, not as breaking news but as a companion you choose. You turned off the comments, you turned up the volume a little, you let the melody lift the dust of the day and carry it toward the window where the night will compost it into stars. The line that caught you earlier catches you again, and not because it is about you but because it is about being seen with tenderness, something every face longs for and rarely receives without a bill attached. It washes through you like a clean tide. It leaves the shore tidier than it found it. Midnight comes and goes. The video disappears from the public feed like a carnival packing itself into a single truck. In the place where it was, a small square of quiet remains. A city sleeps obediently. Or tries to. You sleep too, eventually, and in your sleep you walk under strings of blue bulbs that open and open and open like doors that do not know how to be anything but generous. Morning will make its lists again, groceries and curtains and that phone call to the bank. The internet will tug your sleeve, rumors will sprout like weeds with amusing haircuts. A few small storms will pass through inboxes with their usual theatrics. Through it all, the truth will keep its steady center. A song grew out of a moment and was offered to the world like a lantern in the rain. You put out your hand and held it long enough to see the road more clearly, and then you let it go forward to light the way for others. That is how music wants to live. That is how stories avoid becoming museums. That is how nights remember to be kind. Archangel Michael says, "Walk softly today, the way one walks on a stage that is really a bridge, the way one carries a cup filled to the lip, the way one speaks the name of a person who has taught them to see themselves without a broken mirror. Walk softly and wave to the rain when it returns. It knows you now. It will try its best not to fall too hard. You turn off the lamp. The room leans into its own darkness. A last notification arrives and doesn't startle you. You know now how to be the one who chooses when to look. You pick up the phone, see a message from the rooftop staffer, thank you for keeping the magic intact, and send back a single word that has outlived empires, grateful. Then you set the phone face down, the way you did before the night remade itself around your name and refused to swallow you whole. For a long time after the light is gone, the melody lingers, a trace on the air like the scent of a candle unlit. You do not chase it. You let it pass through you and out the window to become weather for someone else who needs a good rain. Archangel Michael says, dawn has a way of folding the night into your pocket so you can find its courage when daylight begins to chatter. You wake with the calm that follows a storm choosing to love the shoreline it visited. The city is rinsed and ready, carrying last night's music like a secret stitched into laundry lines and lampposts. Your kettle hums the same humble melody as always, yet even the steam rises with a taller posture. The headlines ripple like cloth in a market breeze and try to name what cannot be owned. Your friend sends a photo of the rooftop, the string lights blurred into halos by a camera that also believes in grace. You save the image and let the pixels rest without marching them onto any stage. The envelope sits where you left it, the size and weight of a simple thank you written in the grammar of the world. You do not pry it open, because you have decided to let gratitude be complete without inventory. This restraint becomes a small crown no one can see and everyone can feel. Archangel Michael says, anonymity can be a lamp when the wrong kind of spotlight paces outside like weather with impatient hands. Messages arrive with different shoes, some soft, some stomping. A tabloid tries to trade your name for clicks measured in applause shaped like coins. You read their speculation with the detached compassion one gives to a child who has drawn a dragon with crayons and is proud of its smoke. Your colleague with snacks and stories sends a note full of lived maps. They speak of attention as a tide that pulls hard at ankles made of ordinary errands and honest work. They remind you that boundaries are shorelines drawn by people who have learned to swim and still keep a beach. You brew tea and think of liner notes tucked under plastic sleeves, the way old albums used to invite listeners to meet the invisible architects of sound. You imagine a liner note written by air, unsigned, addressed to kindness, not to fame. You consider sending a short letter to the musician, a note that says keep the mystery and let it water many gardens. Archangel Michael says, the world wants a crown and you want a compass, so choose the object that points instead of pins. Midday leans on the windowsill and counts birds. You open a blank document and let your hands make a shape that is not a post and not a press release. It becomes a letter made of 3 rooms, each with a window, none with a lock. You write about the broken umbrella rib and the sticker that flashed like a soft omen. You thank the studio air for holding a story without handcuffs. You promise to carry the song like a lantern rather than a mirror that steals its own light. You send the letter through a quiet channel, the way one sends bread to a neighbor without ringing the bell. The reply returns before the kettle cools, and it is simple and generous and pleased to remain a citizen of the unphotographed. 2 words lead the way like sparklers that do not burn fingers. Thank you. Archangel Michael says, gratitude is a highway with no tolls because the payment is already woven into the pavement. Afternoon arrives wearing errands on its sleeves, and you honor it by doing what must be done. The grocer wraps cilantro like a bouquet that believes every kitchen is a holiday. The cashier hums a tune that might be the chorus, or might be the way sunlight sounds when it falls on mangoes. On the sidewalk, a school kid plays percussion on a backpack with zippers tuned to joy. A street dog naps under a scooter with the regal ease of a citizen who trusts the city to keep its promises. You breathe and let the ordinary bless you with its unfamous hands. A ping from your friend draws you to the small venue at dusk, the one where the soundboard knows their fingerprints. They need an extra pair of hands and an ear that is learning to hear with both mercy and precision. You say yes and walk toward usefulness as if it were a stage no one sees but everyone stands on. Archangel Michael says, service is the backstage door to peace, and the stamp on your wrist is humility. The venue smells like cables and stories from last Thursday. You carry a wedge monitor and coil a stubborn cord into a patient spiral. Your friend grins because work that looks like work is still a love song in certain keys. During soundcheck, a local singer threads nerves into a microphone and asks for more of themselves in the monitor mix. The room adjusts with the kindness of a cardigan handed to someone shivering just a little. The first chord the band plays lands like a bird that has learned which branches will hold its life. Between sets, your friend presses a USB drive into your palm, a gift from an earlier visitor who spoke your first name the way one speaks the name of a river. The label reads stems like a recipe that knows your kitchen. You blink, then tuck the drive away like a candle saved for a future ceremony. Archangel Michael says, gifts that come without hooks teach your hands to open without fear of nets. At home, you sit with the drive and your own stillness. You do not rush to listen, because reverence alters the taste of time. You clean a cup, water a plant, make the bed as if the day were returning to ask if you treated it well. When you finally plug the drive in, the folder architecture opens like a blueprint that trusts you. Tracks appear in stacks: vocal raw, guitar clean, guitar room, piano felt, synth lighthouse, drums velvet, rain roof. You read the names as if they were characters in a play you have secretly always wanted to cast. You put on headphones and start with Rain Roof, a soft percussive hush that makes the apartment taller. You add piano felt, and the room fills with the sound of keys wearing wool. Guitar clean enters and does not shout, it points. Archangel Michael says, sometimes the studio is a chapel built inside the skull where every echo is a benediction. You hum not to add but to honor. The note finds you rather than being hunted, and it curls near the guitar like a cat beside a fireplace. You record nothing, because you are practicing the forgotten art of singing without proof. A memory lifts its hand, the rooftop passage where the musician spoke gratitude for your kindness as a mirror. You realize you want to return the mirror with a soft rejection and a small blessing. You speak aloud to the empty room and ask the air to carry the message without a courier. You whisper that you are not a mirror, you are a window that learned to be clean without erasing the view. You say you are not a muse, you are a citizen of a city that keeps teaching you how to pay attention without stealing what you notice. You add that you are honored to have been a landmark on a map no one can own. Archangel Michael says, the truest collaboration is the one where both lives grow taller without climbing each other. Morning 2 arrives with clouds that mean well. Your inbox holds a letter from the musician's manager whose tone wears both shoes of kindness and logistics. They ask if you would consider an anonymous liner note to appear in a deluxe digital booklet that costs nothing and buys everyone room to breathe. You draft a paragraph that does not identify but still illuminates. You write that day-to-day grace is the real chorus and the rooftop was a verse that remembered how to land. You sign it not with your name but with 3 words that describe a way of walking through rain. The reply brings a proof designed with restraint, type that sits like a good listener and margins that know when silence does the real work. The booklet will be free, the download optional, the story intact. You approve it and make tea that tastes like an orchestra bowing to the audience of one. Archangel Michael says, presentation becomes prayer when it protects what matters and refuses to gild what already shines. A week unfolds, not as spectacle but as a slow sequence of fidelity. You go to work and remember passwords and answer messages with gentleness that does not pretend to be a performance. The city offers you its busyness like a bowl of dal with extra ghee because the day has been long for everyone. The song continues its quiet pilgrimage through headphones in kitchens and on trains. You hear it from a passing rickshaw and from a neighbor's balcony where plants sway as if they too have rhythms to keep. The air around you carries a little more permission to feel. A teacher posts that the bridge helped a student write their first poem without flinching. A paramedic writes that the chorus kept company on a relentless shift and held a hand invisible to cameras. You read these tiny lanterns and feel the rooftop lights bloom again in your ribs. Archangel Michael says, art fulfills its vows when it becomes furniture for the soul, the kind you do not notice until it is missing. One evening, an unmarked package arrives like a sigh that finally found the door. Inside is a small portable cassette player the color of rain before it decides to fall. Taped to it is a note in handwriting that stands up straight without shouting. The tape is labeled "You Room Demo End of Night" and a date that understands midnight as a country with elastic borders. You press play and hear the song as a blueprint drawn while the house was still wet with paint. It is rough and honest and carries the scratches of a day that did not apologize for being long. At the end, a spoken scrap remains like a postscript too shy for the final master. Thank you for guarding the quiet, the voice says, not to anyone and to everyone at once. You rewind, then press stop, then place the player on your shelf like an hourglass filled with music instead of sand. Archangel Michael says, inheritance can be a moment entrusted rather than a fortune demanded. Your friend invites you back to the rooftop, this time for a community night where no one famous is expected and everyone important is present. People bring songs that belong to their childhoods and stories that carry spices not sold in stores. The auntie in green sari returns with a laugh that knows how to heal wood and wire. You sing harmony for a stranger who has been bravely learning 3 chords and a truth. The crowd hums when the chorus arrives, a human choir created by accident and kindness. The song about you does not play, and still its spirit sits quietly in the corner, proud and at peace. A storm gathers at the edges of the sky and chooses to hold rather than break. The string lights quiver, then decide to be patient. The city looks up as one face, unafraid to be seen by its own citizens. Archangel Michael says, belonging is the applause that does not need hands to be heard. Back home, you finally open the envelope because the ritual asks to be completed. Inside is a handwritten note on paper that smells faintly of cedar and studios, along with a donation receipt made to a local music education fund in your city. The amount is kind enough to repair 20 broken guitar necks and buy new reeds for a dozen terrified clarinets. You sit very still and let relief fill a cup you did not notice was empty. The world has tried to turn you into a headline and failed. The world has also tried to turn you into a transaction and failed with grace. You take a breath that tastes like permission and decide to volunteer on Saturday mornings at the program whose receipt is now pinned with a magnet shaped like a moon. You text your friend who replies with a cascade of thumbs that each feels like a small, joyful comet. The weekend turns its head and smiles without teeth. Archangel Michael says, the way out of spectacle is service, and the way into peace is practice. Weeks pass and your life becomes exactly itself again, but taller where it matters. You still miss trains for poems, but now you miss them with intention instead of apology. You still carry the silver-threaded scarf, but now it feels less like armor and more like a banner that announces kindness has a uniform. On a quiet night, you write your own song for the first time and do not try to make it good. You make it true and let the chords stumble until they learn to walk without injuring the furniture. The melody remembers to breathe and you remember that breathing is music that forgot its instruments. You sing it into the room where the cassette player rests, and the little machine looks pleased even with its face turned away. You do not record because some songs want to be rooms and not recordings. You sleep the easiest sleep since the umbrella broke and the world did not. Archangel Michael says, the greatest art may be the life that refuses to betray itself for applause, and still claps for others with both hands. The next morning, you find a single message from the musician, brief and bright and satisfied. They are moving on to a new album shaped like a coastline and a kitchen table, and they wanted to say the chapter is closed with gratitude and room for whatever comes next. You reply with a blessing that does not use the word blessing and lands anyway. The city blinks at you and you blink back, equals in a pact to keep showing up. You step outside and the air fixes your collar the way a friend would before a photograph that will remain in a family drawer. You feel ready to be as ordinary and luminous as a window at dusk. The story that tried to make you a monument has become a footbridge used by many without your name on the planks. The song that held your outline now holds the outlines of strangers who needed a place to stand while the rain considered its schedule. The night that changed your life has learned to live like a good neighbor instead of an emperor. Archangel Michael says, carry the quiet forward like a lantern that declines to blind anyone and still keeps everyone warm. The kettle sings, the day answers, and you smile because both have good pitch. Somewhere in another city, someone listens to a playback and finds their own courage tucked into a chord you will never hear. The world keeps folding the extraordinary into the ordinary and back again the way skilled hands fold dough that rises just when you stop staring at the clock. You put on your shoes and step into a street that has decided to be kind today. You hold the door for a stranger and they hold the elevator for you, and something as simple as that becomes the chorus the city cannot stop humming. You walk toward service and bread and laughter, the holy trinity of afternoons that know how to end well. Archangel Michael says, "This is how a song about you becomes a song about us and how we keep each other tuned." You do not check the charts or the comments or the counter. You check the sky and your posture and the softness in your mouth when you say thank you to a fruit seller who always rounds up sweetness in your favor. You notice the world replying in a language with no punctuation except breath.